Hulk Hogan made a fortune. Hulk Hogan drew a fortune. Hulk Hogan reshaped what professional wrestling was and what professional wrestling would be. Without a Hulk Hogan, professional wrestling would not be where it is today. That is indisputable. What's also indisputable is that Hulk Hogan was an admitted racist who decided to be such a hateful fucking bigot that he flushed it down the proverbial porcelain throne. So let me tell you something, brother. I'm John Renton with my review of TMZ presents The Real Hulk Hogan. It's a 43-minute piece that's not going to be able to encapsulate all of Hogan's career. Nobody could. I could have done 3 parts and wouldn't have been able to even scratch the surface as far as the influence of Hulk Hogan, both good and bad. And I did a tribute to him. I talked about him on the SmackDown episode right after his death, so I decided to review this because people wanted me to talk about it. One, TMZ Sports, boy, they are predatory, aren't they? Oh, his death has immediately happened. Let's break this goddamn story. I believe TMZ even got a hold of the 911 calls for, when Dusty Rhodes was, when Dusty Rhodes' health took a goddamn downturn, and so many other people. Boy, they are fucking predatory. I'm not saying they're the only media outlet that's predatory, but damn. So, yes, on July 24th, just a little bit ago, at 8 a.m., news broke that Hogan had passed away due to cardiac arrest. Now, I actually was asleep at the time. I woke up to the news and the jokes and everything and stuff like that. And I will say, big time Hulkamaniac. Hogan is the main reason that I got into WWF television. Him and Piper, War to Settle the Score. Seeing that when I was being babysat, that was a big goddamn deal. That was really fucking cool. And yeah, you see a larger-than-life cartoon character, somebody that meant a goddamn lot to so many children and so many adults now. I mean, Hogan is the personification of professional wrestling to many, to a couple generations if we're being perfectly honest. The man Terry Bollea is a fucking piece of shit, and I got no problem saying that, and if you have any problem with me saying that, I don't fucking give a shit. Because Hogan admitted what he was, and Mark Henry even said, why would I sit here and defend someone who tells you who they are? And he's right. Now, the talking heads, by the way, same as it ever was. Vince McMahon, who is the next to go? You take a look at Vince. He looks like he is about to just croak. Sylvester Stallone, whose face has been permanently frozen since about the shooting of Cliffhanger. Charlotte Flair, I'm not really sure what she added. And maybe, I'm actually kind of amazed that they didn't make this a 2-parter, because you could tell there were a lot more pieces that they wanted to talk about. But you had Bill Goldberg, you had Mark Henry, Jimmy Hart. I did feel bad for Jimmy Hart, because Jimmy Hart does seem like an overall good guy. Mick Foley, Bubba Ray, who's a no piece of shit and a goddamn terrible booker and really thinks that he's a lot bigger of a star than he really ever was. As well as Natalia, Lyra Valkyria, very brief, Jacob Fatu, and Roxanne. Along with Raquel Rodriguez, Alexa Bliss, what's left of Tommy Dreamer. Dave Meltzer commented on this as well. And I really do wish that we had gotten a bit more. I actually kind of wish this was an hour and a half because I feel there were a lot more comments that could have been both praising and derogatory. So, yes, Hogan was a pioneer, as Vince said. There was no one like him. This is true. Bruno was a larger-than-life character, but rooted in reality. Pedro Morales was a big goddamn deal. Superstar Billy Graham, the prototype for Hogan and Ventura and so many others. And there were so many in the WWF. There was Jimmy Snuka, renowned murderer Jimmy Snuka that never paid a goddamn red cent for what he did to Nancy Argentino. And Vince even said he was angry, like when Hogan got booed on the Raw Netflix debut. He didn't get booed enough. He didn't get booed enough for what he was and what he would end up, leaving his legacy as. So, they even had footage of the hearse. Whatever, it is what it is. I'm actually willing to bet that Nick Hogan signed off on that because he seems halfway at putts. And footage of his career, the 10-bell salute, all that stuff. I felt bad for Jimmy Hart, as I said. Stallone's face permanently frozen. And there is no doubt that Hogan's influence on wrestling continues. And as long as the positive parts of what he did continue to influence people, great. If you want to take anything about how the man Hulk Hogan was, no. Shouldn't be doing that. All the injuries that he suffered for his art and he suffered for his audience. Yeah, Stallone, noted idiot too. So, and Stallone did defend wrestling a little bit later on. Foley even talked about how people are knocking Hogan and the loved ones and stuff like that, making jokes, and people shouldn't do that. Well, Foley, I ain't black and you ain't black, and I guess people that are really should be allowed to feel how they want and make whatever fucking jokes they want. I'm starting to think the CTE is taking a hold of Foley. So, other clips of people, they were not, some weren't complimentary, some were. Oh, that there were other, there were TikToks and YouTube shorts of people saying they're not going to defend a racist. And again, it's the ultimate separating the art from the artist. I can watch a Hogan match. A match against Kamala might be a little bit difficult. And Hogan, major league, perhaps the major league star that propelled professional wrestling. Nothing against Ric Flair, nothing against Dusty Rhodes, nothing against others. It wasn't that Hogan was the only one, but he was the main figurehead. He was on top in that company for 8 fucking years. And he was on top in WCW for a while. Tommy Dreamer, by the way, does not look like he's doing well. Perhaps he should have gone to another company that would have paid him better, and then maybe he wouldn't be whatever he is now. So he was Terry Boulder in Alabama and Georgia, and then he became Terry the Hulk Boulder after being there on a show with Lou Ferrigno. And then Hulk Hogan, was the name given to him by Vince Sr. And Dave Meltzer talks about the wrestling boom of 1984. Mid-South Wrestling made like $8 million. Jim Crockett Promotions had a rough year, but they were still doing pretty well. The AWA had a rocket year, even though Hogan had left in late 83. And the WWF, it wasn't the absolute instant monumental success right there. Yes, they had the MTV partnership. There were parts of the country where they didn't draw, but Hogan was the main figurehead. And he did connect with the fans. Obviously, he connected with the fucking fans. It would be hard to imagine him not connecting with the fans. Hogan versus Andre, 94,000 people. So no longer 91,000 or 93,173, 94,000. It was probably 78 to 80K, which is still a big fucking deal, by the way. And, Hogan thanked him and said, thanks, boss. And Vince said, no, now you're the boss. I don't know if Andre said that. I'm not here to disparage Andre. I'm not saying Andre is perfect either. You can read up stories about Andre, but Andre was a larger-than-life character, literally. People got tired of him. We go to 1996, and this is all within the first, little bit, but he turns heel in 1996, the NWO influence. He must have hated wearing black, but then he realized he could make money off of wearing something black, and so that's why he did it. So, yeah, it was magical. And it was great that he was able to make all that money. Nothing about him, stopping Ventura from forming a union. Nothing about him burying Randy fucking Savage in their feud. And he did. I mean, I'm sorry. Look at where Randy was after that match with Hogan. Yeah, they had SummerSlam 89 where he was teaming with Zeus. Bless Mr. Lister. But take a look at where Hogan was by Mania 6. He was in the main event. Randy Savage was in a mixed tag with Sensational Sherry against Dusty and Sapphire. Not exactly a fair deal. Rock and Hogan, Mania 18. And yes, it was a big deal. The crowd reaction was bigger than the actual goddamn match. Yes, it was cool to see this generation against the current generation. That was cool. I hate to say it, but the scope of that match is actually kind of overhyped. I will explain here in a bit. But Vince says you always want to do what the fans want. Yeah, Vince. That's why you didn't step down sooner. You always want to give the fans what they want. People cheered Hogan like goddamn mad. And they act like, Rock got boosted in professional wrestling. Rock was gone from the mainstream by about a year later. After After Mania 18, he was gone for a little bit to promote the Scorpion King. He came back, won the Undisputed Championship in that terrific three-way match with Kurt Angle and The Undertaker at Vengeance 2002. Puts over Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2002. Leaves until about January, early February of 2003. Hollywood Rock faces Hogan, beats Hogan in Montreal. Another screw job. Beats Austin at WrestleMania 19. And then loses to Bill Goldberg in Bill Goldberg's first WWE match, where Bill Goldberg got exposed for the fact that he is Bill Goldberg. And Bill Goldberg, do not misunderstand, was a big goddamn draw. But I will not say that Bill Goldberg would fit into WWE. And then Rock was gone till WrestleMania 20, about a year later, because he was making movies. And then he was gone after that. He made an appearance, I think, to help Eugene. And a couple other appearances. After that, his contract was done. They thought they would be able to lowball him and bring him back, and his Hollywood career failed. And don't misunderstand, Rock had to work really goddamn hard and get lucky, landing with the Fast and Furious franchise and a few things like that. But this is about Hogan. Rocky 3, Thunderlips. Stallone praised the fact that Hogan took care of him. Hogan said he went to the WWF in 78. It was actually 79. Because he left wrestling briefly, and it was a Shea Stadium show against Andre in 1980. Left in early 81 because he wanted to do Rocky 3. And Stallone defended wrestling, and that Hogan was making sure that he was not going to get hurt. And Mark Henry said that it made $160 million, was actually $125 million, but who's counting? And then Hogan's mainstream influence, Rock and Wrestling Connection. Not very little about Cyndi Lauper. They showed a little bit of her. But opening the door for other wrestlers to get into Hollywood. Nothing about No Holds Barred. Nothing about his movies. Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando. The Three Ninjas movie that he was in. Nothing about Son of Hercules. Nothing about that. Google Son of Hercules. That is an actual movie that happened. So... yes, we had Rock was successful and is still successful in Hollywood, despite the fact that his movies are basically the same. And Black Adam did not change the hierarchy of, the DECU or DCEU, however the hell you say that. I think it's actually DCEU, and I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Cena's even done well. Nothing about Batista, who arguably is the best of the three. And then at Mania 30, walked to the ring, where it was great to be back in the Silverdome. And then the Make-A-Wish kids. So, yes, I'm sure Hogan was torn up about that because none of these kids deserve this stuff. I wish nothing but peace and happiness to these children and that their diseases get taken away. In all seriousness. None of these children deserve to suffer like that. Give it to the people that, are in the current administration as far as I'm concerned. But... remember the thing that Hogan made about the Make-A-Wish kid at SummerSlam 92? They smelled really bad and stuff like that, all the, the lies and everything. Remember that? SummerSlam 92, the event that Hogan wasn't fucking at. Yeah, so Hogan's lies and perpetual falsehoods and stuff like that. But nevertheless, Hulk meant a lot to these kids. I'm sure it was a big deal for them. And I hope they gave them some happy memories and took away their pain for even a little bit. Because those children didn't deserve that stuff. What did Hogan mean to people? Jimmy said he's his best friend. Vince said we squabbled, but we were like brothers. And how Foley got knocked in an interview, and Hogan has apologized perpetually ever since, knocking Foley's diet and stuff like that. But I think he was more mad about the fact that Foley was able to leave wrestling at 34, and Hogan was still doing it. I mean, Grant Foley had to do it due to injuries and the fact that he couldn't do it full time anymore. And Vince is talking about, the racist comments and everything. Oh, that's not like him. Okay. You don't say that stuff on camera if that's not how you actually fucking feel. You can amplify it for a YouTube video. You can amplify it for an interview and have fun if you're just having fun with jokes, jocularity, or stories. That is not what Hogan did. Hogan didn't know he was being recorded, so be careful what you say on camera, bros. He never apologized for it. That's the big thing about it. He never fucking apologized. Linda Hogan, that backstabbing, botched up plastic surgery bitch, who doesn't deserve any goddamn happiness in her life either. And then about Nick Hogan's car crash. And he didn't suffer nearly enough. Remember when Hogan said about Nick Hogan, about him and Nick, the worst thing could be them being reincarnated as black people? He said that, and that was a recording. So, yeah, I have no sympathy for Nick fucking Hogan. And I have no sympathy for Hulk. I feel bad for Brooke. I bet. I'm not going to say what, but I bet there was fucking abuse. And if you know the pictures, and you've seen the video, and you've seen how Hogan acted, you know what I'm saying. I ain't saying it, but a lot of people are fucking saying it. Hence why, if you take a look at every wife that Hogan had since, or every girlfriend, whatever, bit of a similarity to Brooke with the dyed blonde hair and stuff like that. No wonder he gravitated towards Trump so much, because they all wanted to fuck their own kids. Allegedly, of course. And Mark Henry said, why would I defend somebody that said who they were? And that Vince says, oh, it was terrible what he said, but he's not a racist. Yeah, he is. He said he was racist. I don't care racist to a fucking point. I don't care. He said he was. And he didn't do anything to disprove it. Mark Henry suggested a tour of black colleges and schools and stuff like that. And a tour to apologize, speak to people, see how it hurt them and stuff like that, and have them talk to him and vice versa. He didn't want to fucking do it. Because Hogan's a fucking coward. And Jimmy said, this is not to excuse it. He was at a low point in his life. He was drinking a lot, this kind of stuff. And I love Jimmy Hart. Maybe it's the way they cut it, but god damn it, there is no excuse for that. No fucking excuse for that. It's fucking bullshit. And Vince, chimed in here, but also Jimmy Hart first told the story about how Kamala was working with Hogan, and Hogan saw his paycheck and said, you should be getting more than that for working with me. Vince, give him more money. And he did. It was double that. Okay, I believe that, and I can imagine that Hogan would want to keep his opponent happy. So he'd make, and Kamala did get shafted on a lot of pay and everything, because that gimmick was really fucking over. It's a real shame that Kamala actually didn't end up going further in WWF, but nevertheless. Vince, we all say stuff at our lowest points and this kind of stuff, but it's not, it's inexcusable what he said, but he's not a racist. Yes, he fucking is. It's not like you weren't, Vince. You said the goddamn N-word. Granted, it was with an A, but still. And then Hogan was at the Trump rally. I mean, I don't know why any of this is fucking shocking. But everybody deserved to knock him, and he looked like he was about to keel over, much like the current idiot that's plaguing the White House and everything that some of you dumb fucks voted for. And nobody was shocked. Vince was angry that he got booed at the Netflix debut. Vince was angry he wasn't there. Vince would have probably been pelted with shit if he had been there. And I'm serious. Regardless of what both of them meant to WWF, WWE now. Regardless of what they both meant. They're both, especially Vince, is the personification of fucking evil if any of that shit in that goddamn lawsuit's to be believed. So whatever they ended up doing behind the scenes, in front of the camera and stuff like that to bring wrestling where it is, no, it doesn't excuse who they are as human beings. Foley chooses to joy instead of the anger. His legacy, Vince did want to be there. And Jimmy Hart closes by saying, I'll finish with this. He says that, oh, Hogan's, up there in heaven. Jimmy's on my Mount Rushmore of favorite wrestling managers of all time. It's Heenan, it's Cornette, it's Hart, it's maybe Gary Hart. Maybe Sensational Sherry, we'll see, but that's another story for another day. But Jimmy Hart, Hogan ain't in heaven. He is down fucking there in hell, along with the Ultimate Warrior and Jimmy Snuka and various others. So yeah, that's the real Hulk Hogan. That's all I gotta fucking say about that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rittland. Until we meet again, brothers, happy trails to you.